If you had the ear of the current president, as you did with President Obama at this time of crisis, what would you be saying to him?
Well, I think there are a number of things fiscal policy could do that would be really important to support the economy and also just to deal with the health crisis. So I would say, first of all, you need to spend what you need to spend to deal with the health crisis itself, and whether that's paying people's bills, making sure there are test kits, et cetera. But I think also there's a really important aspect in the United States economy where a lot of healthcare spending gets done by the states as well as by the federal government. And so making sure the states have help from the federal government through Medicaid funds would be really important to make sure they don't actually cut back their spending, whether it's on health or whether they have to make other cutbacks, lay off teachers or policemen to be able to pay for the healthcare bills. There's also, I think, a really important thing where you need to make sure that the safety net doesn't have holes in it. So in particular, making sure unemployment insurance or food stamps, what's now called SNAP, don't have work requirements in place that would keep people from getting access to them if they're actually kind of unable to go to work due to a crisis. And then beyond that, I think there are broader measures we could talk about, whether that's trying to directly help firms that have dislocations in supply chains, providing sick days, or most of all, having some sort of fiscal stimulus directly to the economy. I would advocate doing so through direct checks to households to try to cushion any kind of temporary loss of aggregate demand in the economy.
Interesting you say all of this, because the chief economist from the OECD that we had on the programme on Monday said that it was fiscal policy that's required right now, things like tax breaks, not monetary easing, and a point that was also reiterated by Loretta Mester today, who I spoke to, who voted for yesterday's interest rate cut. She said, look, government action does need to go hand in hand with what the central banks can be doing right now.
That's right. I think it's important that the Federal Reserve takes the actions it needs to take, but we can't only rely on the Federal Reserve, especially in a case like this where you specifically need the government to do some things on the spending side. I would just say, with regards to tax cuts, I think there is a strong case for doing things through direct checks to households, in part because part of what may need to happen is people just need to stay home in some cases, whether you have wider quarantines as has happened in China, or whether you just have individuals who fear they're sick staying home on their own. If you're not earning money, a tax cut doesn't help you. Whereas direct checks to household would be kind of a big hit to the economy in a positive sense and give a cushion to households to make sure that they can take care of their spending needs even if they are unable to work.
Yeah, indeed, a lot of big businesses trialling a boost in people being able to work from home along the lines of what you were saying. Later today,
Right.
We have airline executives meeting with Vice President to talk about data sharing and passenger information sharing to try to stem the outbreak's spread. What other sort of extraordinary measures do you think that government should be asking from businesses at the moment?
I think this is a time where clearly businesses need to help the government when it comes to information. So I think that's an important part. The data we get on the economy lags. And so just trying to figure out what needs to be done. You may need to be reaching out to firms to get more real-time data, talking to whether it's the auto firms or technology firms or even restaurant firms to find out what's happening on the front line. Friday we'll get a jobs report, but that job report references the middle of February, kind of before there was a lot of concern, at least in the United States, about an outbreak. So I think a lot of information sharing is important. In terms of the specific kind of how you stop an outbreak on a health policy front, honestly, I wouldn't want to speculate, because I think the most important thing is to listen to the experts on the health side there.
Okay, Jay.